walking by Coach Grinch, and I tell him, well, he tells me it's going to be one hell of a story one day. We tell our kids out of halftime.
I would say it was a heck of a story. Jalen Hurts after the game, I still can't believe it all went down like it did. Welcome to the show tonight. I'm Brian Keating. He's Carson Cunningham. How about the win for the Oklahoma Sooners? So let's just get right to it because we got a lot to talk about tonight. Oklahoma comes back from 25 down to beat Baylor 34-31. Nobody saw it coming. I know Lincoln Riley said after the game, he said, we really thought we could do this. Maybe they did. But they didn't see it coming, and neither did OU fans, and yet here we are.
I don't know what's more remarkable about this stat. Since 1937, OU was 0-12 when trailing by 21 or more points. That the fact they only trailed by 21 or more 12 times since 1937, I think that's more amazing than the fact they finally came back and won one. But look, this belongs in the pantheon of football comebacks. You think back to the Buffalo Bills coming back against the Houston Oilers. They were down 31. The New England Patriots in the Super Bowl against the Falcons more recently, they were down 28-3. So were the Sooners. It belongs in the pantheon. It's crimson and cream, crimson and comeback. And I think the key to this whole thing, without CeeDee Lamb, I think Jalen Hurts was a little lost in the first half. He realized he had to spread the wealth in the second half. He threw the ball to 10 different receivers in this game. And I thought the biggest key, I said as soon as I found out CeeDee Lamb was not playing, I tweeted that it's time to unleash the five-star freshman. Theo Weiss, Jaden Hazelwood, and Austin Stogner. Austin Stogner, 2 touchdowns. Theo Weiss made plays in space that guys ahead of him, some upperclassmen that play in front of him, simply cannot make. They finally realized they got to get him the ball. And I tell you what, too, the defense looked pretty bad in the first half, but Alex Grinch really made some great adjustments. Namely, he started bracketing coverage on Denzel Mims, who was destroying them in the first half. He was basically moot in the second. And the linebacker play with Nick Bonito getting the interceptions. Alex Grinch pushed all the right buttons in the second half. The whole team did in order to make that kind of comeback. Pushed all the right buttons.
Baylor runs 16 plays for 69 yards in the second half. It's remarkable. That's how you come back. Jalen smiled. I just want to come back to that. I mean, we got a little emotion from Jalen Hurts, and I thought it was awesome to see because it's there. And I thought it was really cool. He was great in the second half. But I'll say this, just looking big picture for Oklahoma, and I know the last couple of weeks after they lost to Kansas State especially, they're out of the playoff, they're this and they're that, and I don't have any idea how it's going to shake out. But win and advance, you stay in the tournament. Oklahoma's still there, and I don't know if they can jump an Oregon or a Utah, but I do know this. They've got that O and the U on the side of their helmet, and Oregon and Utah don't. So win and advance, they survive, they're still in the playoff mix. Here's what they have coming up, and it's, look, OU fans fired up. They got back-to-back under the lights.
Another
TCU
night game.
Coming to town. Another night game.
Yeah, and TCU to me is a team that if you don't come ready to play, they can pop up and beat you.
They can.
They're not one of the best teams in the league, but they're certainly capable. OU's a 19-point favorite. I think that's about right. Under the lights, OU typically plays pretty well, and I know people are going to point to the Iowa State game. They led Iowa State 3 separate occasions by 21 points and just couldn't put it away. I expect Oklahoma to play really well in this game, but the key to me, Brian, is the OU defense. Which one are we going to see? The one we saw in the second half, the one we saw in the first half? As a whole, this might surprise you. Second in total defense in the entire Big 12. Second in total defense is the Oklahoma Sooners. That'll get it done. So as long as Jalen Hurts, to me, takes care of the football as well, that to me is key. I don't really have a word for this.
That's okay. Here, I'll go. I'll go power versus power because Oklahoma is one of the best running teams in the country. They're number 2 in the Big 12 running the football. TCU, number 1 on defense against the run. This is strength versus strength, power versus power, and I think for me it comes down to when we saw TCU live and in person, it was against Oklahoma State. And I know Chuba Hubbard goes for, 223 yards in that game. But on 2 plays, he goes 92 and 62. Meant the rest of the game, they had him bottled up pretty good. So that's where it is for me. I mean, I think Oklahoma's going to win. But I think this is a closer game than I think most people think and give it credit for.
Well, if CeeDee Lamb doesn't play, that brings a whole other element. He's their home run hitter. But no, ball security for Jalen Hurts. If he turns the ball over, it could be a tight one.
You talk about OSU?
Yeah.
Oklahoma State, they had Kansas. They had the Les Miles angle coming to Stillwater. They dominated. 31-13 was the final. It wasn't nearly that close for Oklahoma State. What did you think about the Cowboys playing the Les Miles Mad Hatter coming back to Stillwater.
I think it's clear that Chuba Hubbard belongs in New York. I mean, I don't think there's much debate about it anymore. Obviously, I think two key candidates ahead of him, to me, are pulling out of the race. Tua Tagovailoa is injured. He's not going to go to New York. And Chase Young from Ohio State, the defensive end, he's suspended for 2 games. Can he really go to New York with missing 2 games? I don't believe that's the case. So for me, it's Joe Burrow, it's Justin Fields from Ohio State, and then I think it's Jalen Hurts and Chuba Hubbard, 3A and 3B for me in the Heisman race. And I thought Mike Gundy made a real clear candidacy here. He said, look, is it a quarterback award? I'm good. If it is, I'm good, but it's not. So I think Chuba Hubbard's clearly making his case. He's 263 yards ahead of Jonathan Taylor. ESPN had him 6th before this week. Again, with Tua and Chase Young gone, I think he moves into the top 4.
I don't like to put out my voting. I've said it before. I vote for this thing, and so I don't like to put it out there exactly but I'm paying attention to what Chuba's doing. I don't think as far as the game goes, Jim knows what he's doing, and that's the defensive coordinator for OSU. And in this 3-game winning streak that OSU has going, their defense has been outstanding. And 10 turnovers forced in 3 games. A lot of those as far as interceptions. And so that's really what's turned it around. And when OSU's played well, their defense has been good. When they win, they've allowed 14, 21, 13, 27, 27, and 13. That'll get it done in the Big 12.
They've relied on their defense.
They've relied on their defense in a lot of ways.
Last time I said that about Oklahoma
Mike Gundy's
State.
been okay. He says, you know what, we'll punt, and we'll let our defense, who's played very well. So to me, it's defense and Chuba, and that's how OSU's managed to get back in the not the conference race, but at least back to where they're playing really good football. And this is a tough game coming up for OSU because you look at West Virginia and you look at their record, you go, they're not any good, and they're not great, but that is a tough game on a tough trip. You go to the East Coast, it's a long way to go, hostile environment, and your morning kick. I think OSU's got to be careful here.
And Kansas State found that out the hard way. They were at home against West Virginia, just assumed they would roll.
Who's playing better?
West Virginia went on and beat Kansas State. And I agree with you. That's the point I wanted to make next was, you know, Jim Knowles is not in the running for the Broyles Award as the top assistant coach in the country. He's out of that. But his performance ever since that first half against Tulsa has been Broyles Award worthy. I think he's been sensational. He has got this OSU defense playing at a level they have not played with in decades. Is that fair? I mean, look, they're 29th in defensive efficiency. This is something that you've been begging from OSU defense for years, and they're finally getting it, and it's just startling that their offense is not quite as good as it's been, but their defense is making up for it.
They can big play you. They got some big plays against Kansas. They run the ball. What they've really done, too, is not turn it over. Spencer Sanders has taken care of the football, hadn't thrown it to the other team. They've put him in better situations, not asked him to do as much, and OSU's winning football games because of it.
Yep, I expect them to win against West Virginia,
I do too.
which would set up a massive Bedlam game.
I expect them to win, too, but that's a tougher game than I think most people give it credit for.
The moonshine will be flowing at 11 a.m.
I assume that's probably the case.